All right. Welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, I want to welcome everyone. To this Q&A. There was a there was a question that came in earlier, and the question here was guardian angels. How do guardian angels work? Or what are guardian angels? So we'll say like this, then every person has an angel. As the Gemara says, Gemara and Shabbos says, every person has an angel who follows him. Right? Follows them wherever they go, and they record. Right? One thing is you have two angels following you every day that will record essentially everything that you do. Right? So the Gemara in Shabbos says that if two angels follow you back from synagogue, Friday night, if everything's in order, the house is cleaned and everything's set up, for Shabbos, then one angel has to nod to the other angel and say, it should be like this next week. Then if they come back in the house, let's say, God forbid, a mess. Yeah, let's say next week, they come back and the house is a mess. So one angel has to nod to the other and say it should be like this next week, right? So you have two angels follow you back from synagogue, right? Friday night, or see what's going on in your house. And basically you have angels that, record what we do. Person has two angels following them every day, right? And recording, basically, that's what they do. They record, right? They record what you do. So even though God knows what we do, doesn't really need these angels to record, because when a person dies, what's going to happen? After they die, they're going to get judged. They're going to get judged for everything they've done. Now, what does it mean to get judged? God's going to look at the action that the person did, and he's going to see, was it good? Was it bad? How good was it? How bad was it? What are the ramifications? Where are they holding? A lot of different factors. How this gets judged. Now, based on that, before a person gets judged, God brings up all his actions. So the Mishnah Berurah says we create good angels, bad angels. Right? In other words, we do the right thing. We do it at the highest level. We create what we call a very strong, let's say a white angel, very strong, very powerful white angel. Very good. If we did, let's say Kaufman would say, you did the mitzvah, you get a C-. Okay. You also create a white angel. Maybe not as strong, maybe it's not as powerful. Right? You do the wrong thing. Depending again where you're holding, why you did it. Different things you acquire, or you create, let's say better. You create a black angel, sometimes stronger, sometimes weaker. Now, the Ramchal says Derech Hashem that when a person gets judged, all these angels come and testify, just like in heavenly courts. People argue about whatever they argue about, and they say, bring witnesses to what you've done, or to what you want to back up. Very good. So to the heavenly court, that God's not going to judge a person until he hears all the evidence. Now, couldn't we say God knows all the evidence anyway? Can't God just look at it and decide and know all that? Yes. But the Ramchal says the heavenly court works like a court here. The judge has to hear the evidence. Right? Judge is going to look at all the evidence. Very good. And then he's going to decide. Right? Then he's going to decide. But essentially, God doesn't do that. So Ramchal says, nonetheless, This is how the heavenly court works. When a person gets judged, their actions get judged. So angels that are created come and give testimony. They show back the video. This is what the person did. Right? This is where they're holding. All the history as well. So that angel testifies for good or for bad. So then God gathers all the testimony. And then God's going to judge it. God, the heavenly court, are going to judge what should happen. What should happen to this person? Good. So that's one aspect. Now, part of the question was, okay, guardian angels. So every nation has their guardian angel. What does the guardian angel do? It pleads for the needs of the nation. In other words, what the nation needs. Now, God can either agree or disagree. God can say, no, they don't need this. Or no, I'm not going to grant this. Or maybe I will. So each nation has an advocate, right? That's what the angel's like. It's an advocate. To say, we need this, we need that, we need the other thing. And however God's going to look at it. Now, the idea of a guardian angel for a person, right? It sounds like a fairy tale. Yeah, we have two angels watching us every day. Just like we're recording now, these two angels, that's what they do. They follow the person wherever they are. The angels record. Now, does that mean they guard the person? That doesn't seem like that. They don't guard the person per se. What do? They watch. They watch what the person does. Or let's say better, they record what the person does. Now, let's say a person's in trouble or seemingly in trouble. Can God send down an angel in order to, protect them? Yes. He can do that. Now, again, an angel, remember, is only a messenger. The angel itself has no free will, right? Judaism does not believe that angels have free will. So evil, God created evil. Doesn't mean he is evil. Look at Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. And what do the Christians do? They change the meaning. They change the meaning of the verse. Because essentially, evil comes from Mr. S, the Satan, the evil inclination, whatever you want to call him, the angel of death. So there, he can do what he wants. But we don't believe that. No angel has free will. The only being in this world that has free will is man. Good. So a guardian angel, right, is not a Jewish concept. Definitely not a Jewish concept. Can an angel stop a person from getting into trouble? Yes. Now, why would he do that? Why would this angel do that? Because God commanded the angel to do it. To stop this trouble or stop whatever is supposed to happen in a negative way and protect the person. Good. Does that mean a person got his own personal guardian angel? No. That's a totally different thing. So God uses angels as messengers to do his work, whatever it may be. Right? We know that 3 Arabs come to Abraham. Right? Abraham's looking for guests. Right? After circumcision, God makes these 3 people appear, so to speak. They were angels in the bodies of humans, and they came for 3 things. One of them was tell Abraham Sarah's going to have a child. One was to heal him from circumcision, and the other was to overthrow Sodom. Now, there are a few things over here, right? One thing is, what do we see? We see that angels do not multitask. Angels, when they're put, I guess, in a body, whatever they're supposed to do, whatever action they're supposed to do, the angel itself does what it's programmed to do. That's it. It can't go out and do something else. Once the task is done, God pulls it back. And then if you want to send it on another mission, he'll send it on another mission. But they don't multitask. Right? That's one thing. Because you see, why couldn't have God just sent one of them? He could have sent one of them to do all 3. I mean, if these angels can do it, they have power. God gives them power. So can he send one to do three things? Could. Right? That, nothing stopping him from doing that. He can program them any way he wants. Right? But essentially, this is one thing you learn out. One thing you learn out, they don't multitask. Once they finish one thing, God sends them on to another mission. Or he doesn't, whatever. Different levels of angels, as well. But the misnomer is that a person has, someone walking around protecting him at all times. It's not true. Right? That for sure is not true. If a person needs help or different things that God feels, I need to send an angel to protect them from whatever, okay. But a person having their own specific, angel protecting them, no. That's God's protection through the angel itself. Right? So, God can make it in a way where a person in a certain situation, so he can help them in that situation or save them in different ways through an angel. Right? Put the angel in the human body, tell them to go do this, do that, do the other thing. Right? Get them out of danger. Now, does that mean a person has their own protection? No. Doesn't mean they have their own angel, their own guardian angel. Right? But angels have many different things they do. That God programs them what to do, and what things to enact or not enact or whatever. So can God use the angel to protect the person or save them? Yes. Is that angel responsible for the person in other ways? No. Not at all. He goes about and does whatever this angel does. He'll send him on another task. Right? Whatever the case may be. But in general, that's the case. So angels can either they're recording, right? You got certain angels that are recording everything we do, right? 2 angels that every person has, right? Recording what we do. You have, and then in the end, when a person dies, they are going to testify. They are going to testify for the person after they die, right? And they're going to say he did this, either he did this good or he did this bad or whatever the case is. He's going to testify. Right? That's what those 2 angels do. They follow the person every second of their lives, recording everything going on what the person did. Right? Very good. Now, you have guardian angels. Right? Guardian angels over here means for each nation. Right? Each nation, an angel is appointed to give over the needs of whatever that nation needs. Right? It's an advocate. Right? Seemingly an advocate. Now, God has other angels, as Ramchal says, for all kinds of different things, right? All kinds of different tasks, protecting trees, protecting water, doing other things. God has a lot of angels. Now, some of them are on a higher level. There are different levels, right? Different levels of angels. Some are on a higher level, lower level, right? For us, doesn't really, it doesn't really matter over here. But I'm just pointing out, as Ramchal says, there's a hierarchy. Angels, as we said, don't have free will. Angels themselves, as we said, they can't do whatever they want. They also cannot multitask, right? 100% they cannot multitask. So whatever function God gives them to do, that's what they do. They don't go outside that function. And then what happens essentially when the angel finishes? When the angel finishes what it does. So then it goes back to another, then if God needs something else, God will send it. Right? God will send it for whatever purpose he has. Right? But again, it's totally, it can be a totally different task. Right? 100% totally different task. So they don't have free will, they don't multitask. Right? And you have angels that are advocates, for the nations, right? For each nation has their own angel that advocates. And you have angels that record, right? You have angels that record what we do on a daily basis. So there's a hierarchy, as Ramchal says. Some on a high level, some on a lower level, and depending on the level, God gives them what to do and what he needs them to do. Someone asks, based on that, so an angel would come in the form of a human. Yes. right? 100%. And encourage the person to go closer to God or throw a block in front of them. Depends what the angel is there for. It's already an evil inclination. The angel's not acting as an evil inclination. The angel is acting in a way that, could be used by the evil inclination, maybe. I'm not sure about that. The angel itself, even if it's disguised, so to speak, as a human, whatever its task is, whatever the task is, save them. You can have destructive angels. God can send a destructive angel, cause you havoc, cause your car to go off the road, right? It can cause terrible things to happen, cause good things to happen. Now, if an angel in the disguise of a human, can they encourage people to do tshuva? Yeah. Could they cause them other problems? Yes. Goes both ways. Right? Definitely goes both ways, right? But again, they can be used, as part of the inclination. Yeah. God allows it. So in theory, that could be. In theory, I'll give an example. Let's say you got an angel's job is to destroy something. Now, because of that destruction, a person repents. For whatever reason, a person comes to repentance. Now, the purpose of that angel right now is to destroy. Yeah, let's say the purpose of this angel is, I don't know, make huge wildfire, destroy homes. Yeah, whatever it may be. Let's say that's the case. Now, a person gets evacuated, a person gets saved, makes them come back to God, makes them repent. Now, that's not the job of the angel. The job of the angel is what? To destroy. That angel is there to destroy forests and homes, and multi-million-dollar homes. Well, the person witnessing it realizes something bigger in life, this and that, they change. Okay, but that's not direct. The angel's not coming there to influence them. The angel's coming to do a job. Oh, someone came and repented because of what they did. Good. Very good. But that's not the goal. That wasn't the goal of the angel, right? It could be just the opposite also. Let's say an angel comes and destroys or whatever it's supposed to do in a negative way, and a person gets now solidly depressed, right? Person doesn't know what to do. Person's on their knees. Could take them away from God. 100% could take them away from God. So if it takes them away from God, is that their job? No. That is not their job. Their job is something else. However, someone looks at it, what they take from it, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Right? So you have the Satan, the angel of death, the evil inclination, whatever you want to call it. He's not bringing necessarily other angels come, and tempt a person. He's doing it in other ways. Right? If, let's say that would be the case. Let's say the only way this angel, which is the angel of death, the evil inclination, Mr. S, whatever you want to call him, right? His goal is to make us sin. That's his goal. Now, could he invoke other angels, disguise them as people to cause the person to go off and do other things? Now, in theory, he could. But the only way he can is if God allows him to. See, if God doesn't allow him to, then he can't do it. He can't recruit, angels to do his bidding if God says no. If God allows him, very good. He's got everything at his disposal to do what he wants to do, as long as God says you can. Now, what's one of the reasons? How do we know that angels don't have free will? You look at the book of Job, very beginning, book of Job. What is God? The adversary comes to God, i.e. the Satan. comes to God and he wants to test Job, right? God says, look at my trusty servant Job. And the Satan says, if I took away his wealth and other things, he's going to blaspheme against you. God says, no, he's not. So what does the Satan say? Let me test him. Let me test him. God says, okay. You want to test him, you're allowed to test him. But what does God say specifically? He gives him a direct command. You can't kill him. You are not allowed to kill him. Yeah? So doesn't have free will. He has to obey. He can do other things. Take away his money. Yeah? Take away his family. Cause him health issues. Can do all kinds of things. But he can't kill him. Right? So based on that, what does it sound like? That the evil inclination cannot do what he wants. The angel of death over here cannot do what he wants, i.e., doesn't have free will. Right? So could other angels be brought in order either cause someone to draw close? That's not what the evil inclination wants, right? Or do other things? Yeah, in theory, but that's only going to be if God allows the angel of death, to Satan, whatever you want to call him, if he gives him that right to do it. Because if he doesn't have the right to do it, it ain't happening. Like the big wolf, he can huff and he puff. Yeah, he ain't going to blow your house down. Nothing's going to happen. If God wants it to happen, it'll happen. Right? But he could use all kinds of other things. Doesn't necessarily have to use angels. But if he had that at his disposal and he wants to disguise them, as humans to do his bidding, he could do that. Right? But the only way he can do that, and remember, the angels don't have free will here, but the only way he can do that is God allows it. If God doesn't allow him to, it doesn't matter. He would not be allowed to. Somebody asked, there's an English translation that brings you a literal and faithful word-for-word translation of the Hebrew text through the English language. Literal translation, you're going to have a problem with. Why are you going to have a problem with literal translation? Right? I'll give you an example of what the problem is. If you take the first verse in the Torah, right? Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Bereshit bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. Right? God created the heaven and the earth. Right? Now, how would you literally translate that? Literally. Bereshit literally means, we translate it in the beginning. But if you take the beis out of the words, I get racist, the first. So what's the root of the words? The whole question over here. Rashi goes into great detail over here. Right? Rashi over there goes in great detail. What it means. Because Bereshit bara is the same root of the word. Right? The word Bereshit and bara, what's the root of the word? Beit Resh Aleph. The word bara means to create. Right? It literally means to create. Now, how would I translate this? Yeah, in the creation of God creating the heaven and the earth. That's a literal translation. That sound good? Doesn't sound good. Not just because I translate that way. It doesn't sound good in general. Right? So if you would translate it literally, which almost nobody's going to translate the Torah literally, because you'll never understand it. Right? You will never understand it. So ArtScroll, if you go to artscroll.com, you get a Tanakh or a Chumash base, that is from ArtScroll. They are going to translate according to what they think the meaning of the text is. According to not what they think, what, let's say, Rashi says. Because normally they're going to translate that verse in the beginning of creation. Right? Let me see if they bring it up here. 1 second. Let's see how they translate it. Let's see if they're going to bring it here. No. 1 second. We'll go to Chabad.org. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the beginning of God's creation of the heaven and the earth. This is the problem. I mean, that's how they translate it, yeah? But the Hebrew words Bereshit bara is the same root of the words. Now, if you're going to tell me, give me a literal translation, what's the point of a literal translation? You're not going to understand anything from any literal translation. There has to be an interpretation with the translation, right? Because if you don't have an interpretation with the translation, it ain't going to make any sense, right? It's not going to make any sense. So I would say, if you go to artscroll.com and you get a copy of the Torah, or you go to, let's say, Chabad.org, they have a translation right there. Their translation is based on probably one of the commentaries, Rashi, the Ramban, maybe the Ibn Ezra, maybe others. Because a literal translation, you'll be totally lost. There are some linear translations. Linear, I remember when I was first in yeshiva, someone had bought, back in the day, it's really before ArtScroll, or just ArtScroll was starting, that they bought a linear translation of the Torah with Rashi. Yeah, now, linear translation is like word by word. Now, doing it word by word is not going to help you. Why do I say it's not going to help you? Because you're going to read the sentence, it's going to be gobbledygook. It's not going to make any sense. Just like we said, Chabad.org translates it over here, translates it in the beginning of God's creation. But what's the literal translation? First of all, what's the root of the word? You take out the base, you got Bereshit, right? In the first. You got the word Reshit means first. So Rashi says, what does it mean the first? The Rashi's got a whole discussion there at the beginning of Genesis. But literally the root of the word is Beit Reish Aleph. Bet Reish Aleph means to create. So you're going to say, in the creating of God's creating. That's the literal translation. Does that help you? I don't think it helps anyone. Right? So it has to be, as we said, normally the translation is in the beginning of God's creation. Because literally it won't make sense. And there are a lot of things like that in the Torah that if you translate it literally will not make sense. So any translation, there's a problem with translation. I agree. There's definitely a problem. Yeah, because you're going according to what they're looking at, what criteria they're looking at to translate. But a literal translation will do you no justice. Won't do any justice because you won't understand what it means. You have no understanding. Yeah. So any translation is going to be according to probably one of the commentaries, right? How they're going to translate it. Because, a lot of times, let's say at the end of the verse, it'll say, let's say, the person desecrates Shabbos. So the Torah says, Mot Yumat. It's the root of the word is Mem Vav Tav, to die. You will die, you will die. Does that help you? Literal translation? Doesn't help you. I mean, in English, we would say, you will surely die. Okay. But why repetition? Why does it use double language? Because if you're going to translate it, literally, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. A lot of times, it'll be more confusing than it'll help you. Right? One of the first companies out there that, translate a lot of things in English was Onsino. So, people say when they used, Onsino as a translation of the Talmud, right? They said that the Aramaic was easier because the English was atrocious. You can look online for a Onsino translation of the Talmud. Yeah, and you look at ArtScroll translations, two different worlds. Two totally different worlds. Now, the ArtScroll translation is not a literal translation of the word. It's the context of what the word means. Now, if you know how to learn, you know what the root of the word is, and they're telling you what it means in context, okay. Right? But if you're learning how to learn, you get the root of the word very good. Now you have to figure out what it means, what the word means. Right? So knowing what it means in the context is a totally different thing than what it literally means. right? Because sometimes things will be translated, and the translation will be a euphemism. Sometimes it'll be a translation of something, let's say of something when it comes to modesty. So the Torah doesn't come out, or the Gemara doesn't come out and say, something very explicit. But let's say the Gemara will use, another word to describe what it is. So you look at that word and you say, but what's the context? If you translate it literally, you don't know what it means. Right? That's the point. You won't know what it means. You don't use it as a parable for what it means because they don't want to say what it means directly because of modesty reasons. Makes sense. So it's not doing you any justice either way. If it would be translated literally, you'd never understand anything. That would be the point. So you stick with ArtScroll or, Chabad.org, any of these groups that, they have good translations. But again, it's going to be translated according to probably one of the commentaries. Because a lot of times you'll see that literally, you try and read it literally, won't make sense. Will not make sense. Somebody says Bilam's back to Bilam. Yeah, Bilam's last words to Balak. He says Edom becomes a possession. Yeah, Seir a possession of its enemies, but Israel's triumph. Has this prophecy already been fulfilled? Or is it a reference to the future? It's a reference to the future. Yeah, why is it a reference to the future? Because even if at that time, right, he could be talking about that time, right? Israel's triumphant. Because no matter what he does, try and curse the Jewish people doesn't work. So you see, the Jewish people win over here, so to speak. But we see that that's not going to be forever. We see that Israel's not going to triumph forever. Israel eventually get thrown out of the land. Right? Future reference, Israel will come back. Right? That's for sure. So here, a possession, Seir becomes a possession of its enemies. Who's Seir? Is Edom. Right? It's going to be Edom over here. So, right? So that's, so that's going to be an interesting thing in and of itself because, Seir, represents Edom, right? And that eventually going to get destroyed. Right? Israel's going to demolish them. So that's talking, that is talking now. Also talking about the future. Right? For sure. Talking about the future. Right? And that they're going to get destroyed. Right? That for sure they're going to get destroyed. Right? It's going to be their downfall. Who's it talking about? Talking about the Messiah. Right? Messiah is going to come and wipe them out. Right? No question. So we're under that final exile, right? The exile of Rome, the exile of Edom. And God is going to punish them. Right? So what does Bilam say over here? Why does he mention Edom? No question, the right to the kingdom. The one people is going to be stronger than the other. Right? Someone's in trouble over here. So what is Bilam saying? That Edom is not fully going to fall until the end of the exile. Right? By the hand of that star. Who's that star? I.e. the Jewish people, i.e. the Messiah. Right? Who's going to wipe them up. Right? It's interesting. Edom is a possession, right? What's the word for possession over here? The word is Yerusha, right? Or Yerusha, right? What is the word? What does that mean? It means possession, but what's it related to? What word? The word Torishu. What does the word Torishu mean? To drive out, push out. Yeah. So it means that they're going to get wiped out. That they're going to be wiped out in the future. So it's talking about future, right? It's talking about the future over here. That they're going to be toast. And how are they going to be toast? In my language, they're going to get toasted by the Messiah, right? That's going to be the end of that exile. When the Messiah comes, Rome, Edom, Western world, whatever you want to call them, going to get destroyed, right? They're totally going to get destroyed. The parable is, it's like a match to straw. That's the parable. We put a match to straw, boom, whole thing goes up very quickly, right? The Messiah comes, going to flatten them like a pancake. Yeah, that's going to be the end of that. Going to be the end of that exile when the Messiah comes and wipes them out. Right. So again, the word Eurasia over here, to mean to what do you call it? To draw out or to push out, let's say better. Or to drive out, right? Again, the word Yerusha, which means possession, is the same root as to drive out, right? So that's prophetical, right? That is prophetical for what's going to happen in the future. That Edom going to get wiped out, going to get wiped out by the Messiah, all right, by the Jewish people. Someone here mentioned that with Uncle's translation, it says, "In the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth." Yeah, right. But again, it's a hard translation. It's a hard translation, right? Because even though it says "in the beginning," yeah, you got two words. Bereshis bara means the same thing. In the beginning, in the beginning. Well, you're not going to translate it that way, right? Write a book like that, no one's going to read it. No one's going to buy it because it's crummy. It's a crummy translation. So they have to translate in a way that it flows, that people can understand what it says. If you were to say in the beginning of God creating the world, yeah, it's repetitive, it's redundant, right? So here, someone here points out, it says, "In the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth." Okay, right? I don't have my article in front of me, but according to according to Chabad.org, how do they translate it? In the beginning of God's creation. So it says, "In the beginning, Hashem created the heaven and the earth." Okay, right? So the translation is the beginning of God's creation of the heaven and the earth. So you can translate, it means the same thing, essentially, right? This is an easy way to say it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. But really, it should be in the beginning of God's creation. Right? That's the way it should sound. Right? The other way is a little, it's easier to say. But a lot of times a translation, if it's literal, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. Right? Even if you could read Hebrew, you could translate the words. You got to make the words fit in a way that is understandable. Because if you just translate, it's not going to help you. And it happens many, many times. Many, many times. That translation just, it's a hard thing to hear. Because you got to decipher what it means. See, looking at the words and dissecting the words, very good. And getting to the roots of the words, okay. But if you know what the word means, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the context of what it means. right? Let that sink in for a second. The context may be very different, even though that's the root of the word. So you got to see how it fits in the context. But if you would translate it literally, that'd be a problem, right? As we would say, a lot of sense it doesn't make. For instance, we'll go to the third verse, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, right? We'll make it a little more graphic. What does the Torah say? The Torah says, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or Vayehi Or. And God said, right? God of justice. Elokim means God of justice. God said, Yehi. What does the word Yehi mean? It will be. Right? It will be. It will be light and it will be light. That would be a literal translation. What do you mean it will be light? What's going to be light? Right? And the obvious question would be, what do you mean light? What's the light source? We don't have a light source till day 4. What's the light source? The sun. The sun hasn't been created yet. So Rashi says, it can't be talking about a physical light source. Must be a spiritual light source. Okay, but forget about that. Right? What's the normal translation? And God said, let there be light. And there was light. That's a big difference. That's just an easier way to read it, to understand God's the one saying, which we understand because it says, and God said, that let there be light and there was light. Now again, even with that translation, forget how I, butchered it and translated it. Even according to this translation, it makes it readable, makes it a little more understanding. Yeah, at least what the words mean. Very good, but it has no understanding literally. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Yeah, that's seemingly what it means. Where did the light come from? And how did God create it? Where did he create it from? Right, the commentaries say he created something from nothing. Some will say it was already there in creation and God put it into action. No, he created from nothing. Ex nihilo, as they would say in Latin, created something from nothing. But there's no explanation. Even if we have a nice flowered way of saying it to make it understandable to us, it still has no comprehension. Absolutely zero comprehension. That's another issue. Verse 4. Vayar Elokim es haor ki tov yavdu Elokim bein haor v'choshech. And God saw that the light, it was good. Right? Doesn't sound so good, but that's how you would translate it. Right? Ki tov, that it was good. V'yavdil, and he distinguished, he separated, literally. V'yavdil means to distinguish. Right? Literally it means to distinguish. Right? When I make havdalah between after Shabbos. Yeah. Here it means he separated. He separated Beina or Beina Choshech. He separated between the light and the darkness, and between the darkness. Right? Again, Vayavdil is a problem here, how you translate it. If you say he distinguished, you could say that. He distinguished between the light and the darkness. You could say it that way. But it sounds better if you say it was separated. Because that's what Rashi is going to say. Right? That's exactly what Rashi is going to say. Right? If I bring it up here, 1 second. He says we need a medrash to explain it. Because he want the wicked to see the light in the future. So it means it was good and that he established a boundary between day and night. But again, if you say he distinguished between light and darkness, what does that mean? Literally, that's what it means. But they translated separated. Why separate? Again, there had to be boundaries between day and night. So literal translation, again, these are just a few examples. Literal translations aren't necessarily going to help you because doesn't, the translation is incomprehensible. Now, if we say on that verse, for instance, if you say on that verse, God separated day and night, okay. Why? Or even better, how? How did God do that? He separated day and night. Exactly how did he do that? So you tell me the sun goes down, and there's darkness, right? The separation doesn't tell me how it happens. Doesn't tell me how it happens, right? So it's separation. But if I say it's distinguished, it doesn't make sense, right? So distinguished over here means separation. That's all it's learned of. Right? Someone asked, there's two different lights. No. One's a physical light, right? What's the physical light in this world? The sun. Question everybody asks is if God said, let there be light, and there was light, okay, so what type of light are we talking about? Can't be a physical light. All the commentaries say it can't be a physical light. What's the obvious question? What's the physical light in this world? The sun. When's the sun created? Go check up in Genesis. Day 4. The sun is created on day 4. It's going to be a spiritual light. So commentaries say spiritual light is only for the righteous. So God put the spiritual light away, right? He put the spiritual light away for the righteous in the world to come. Okay, but why would God create something just to hide it? Same thing, God created this big sea monsters, whatever the Taninim are, right? It's a great sea monster, right? So Rashi says God killed the or salted the male away, killed the female so they wouldn't reproduce. Why did God do that? Because if they reproduce, they destroy the world. They would totally destroy the world. What's the obvious question? Why would God create something just to destroy it? Doesn't he know it could do that? Obviously, God knows. But he creates something in order to destroy it, because otherwise, if they reproduce, it'll destroy the world. Right? Genesis is very, very hard to understand. Right? It's a lot of it, if not almost all of it, in creation, it's all Kabbalah. It's very hard to understand. Right? It's very hard to understand. Right? Are there two different lights? No. You got a physical light and a spiritual light. The physical light, again, what do we have? We have the sun and the moon. And there's a whole disagreement between the sun and the moon. Right? So God separates sun and the moon. Sun has dominion over the day, the moon has dominion over night. It's brought down, the moon gets placated because its power given over light is much greater than the stars, so it rules over the night. But there's only one problem. Don't we understand the moon's a reflection of the sun? The light of the moon is a reflection of the sun. Yeah. So even though it's in charge of nighttime, even though it gives light at night, very good. And it's got much greater light than all the stars. Seems to be in power over there, very good. But its own light is not its own. Where does its light come from? Where's the power of its light? It's a reflection of the sun. So if it's a reflection of the sun, how's the moon placated? Hard to understand. Right, in a certain way. But again, there's a physical light, there's a spiritual light. Isn't part of that spiritual light, anyone's gone through a out-of-body experience, they say the same thing. They see their soul hover over the body, they're drawn to this great light. It's a spiritual light. So you got two things. You got a physical light and a spiritual light. But the spiritual light is not giving off light like we could see. That's a totally different thing. So then the obvious question is, God didn't create the sun till the 4th day, right? That's the obvious question. When God created man or the animals or everything else, let's say better, the animals and man, how they see. And it says God separated day from night. Very good. But no, what before that, how are they able to see? How would animals be able to see? Yeah. So what's the simple answer? It's not even a question. Why? Because animals are not created till day 5. Man's not created till day 7, till day 6. So the sun's already created. Different issue. Totally different issue. There's no sunlight at that point. There's no physical light at that point, seemingly. Yeah, but you needed that sunlight for man to be able to see and for animals to be able to see. But before animals and man are created, do I need sunlight? No. Yeah, I don't need sunlight. All right, what about the vegetation? Oh, very good. God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. Yeah, vegetation. So how did vegetation come about? The rain. But they didn't come about until man prayed. God put man in this world. Man understood. You want things to grow, you got to pray for that. They didn't grow, right? God created all the vegetation, very good, but how's it going to continue to grow? You need blessing. Where does the blessing come from? Man. Oh, God put in the mind of Adam in order to pray that he should pray for the sake of the plants and the fruits and all that. And once he prayed, then that was a different issue. But man is going to be able to see because not a problem. God created the sun. But up until that point, he didn't need the sun. But that's the obvious question. If God says, let there be light, it can't be a physical light. It's going to be a spiritual light. Right? As Rashi says, and others say. Because again, when was the sun created? Day 4. Yeah, someone here asked, very good. Are each of the letters the energy source? Yeah, we're not going to get into that. Could be. Letters have power. They do have power. I'll say one thing. I'll just mention one thing on that. If a person learns oral law, Medrash, Gemara, commentaries, yeah. If you don't understand anything you're reading, you don't get merit. You don't get credit. If a person learns Zohar, which I don't recommend anyone should do till you're ready. If a person learns Kabbalah and you don't understand a single word, you get credit? You get credit. Why do you get credit? Even if you don't understand anything. You get credit because of the holiness of the letters. So there is something to that. That's why, if a person speaks Hebrew here in the land or anywhere else, but, use modern Hebrew to curse or other things, those words have power because they come from Hebrew letters. Or God forbid you write them in that way. But they do have power, right? But I'm not going into that. Is it correct? Day is good, night is evil. Nighttime is a time of judgment. Many bad things happen at night. Does it mean it's inherently evil? No. I wouldn't say it's inherently evil. But nighttime is a time of judgment. So bad things, probably more bad things happen at night than during the day, potentially. Because of time of judgment. Is having chutzpah a good thing? Depends what it's used for. Yeah, normally chutzpah is not good. Chutzpah can mean that the person's obnoxious. That they say things they shouldn't. They have gaiva, right? It leads to being conceited, right? It can also be a strong character trait if it's used in the right way. In other words, it can be a strength of character. Can be. But normally the connotation of someone who's chutzpahdik is bad. They speak out, they curse, they do other things. Usually it's a negative connotation. Can it be used for good? Yes. Jewish people called the stiff-necked people. We're stubborn. Some people more than others, but we're stubborn. We don't give up easily. We're still around after thousands of years of persecution. Now, being stiff-necked can also be bad. Person uses it in the wrong way. Stubbornness to be stubborn until you get your way and other things, that's bad. Can be used for good. Not saying not. But the connotation in the Torah that the Jewish people are stiff-necked, it's never good, right? It's not a good connotation, right? We would never say it's a good connotation. Why? It's the way it sounds. Exactly the way it sounds. You know, when someone's called stiff-necked, you wouldn't say that today. You'd say they're stubborn. But when they say stubborn, they mean in a negative way. They never give in. They never, they think they should get their way all the time. But stubborn can also be a good character trait. You don't give up easily. You don't throw in the towel when other people would. Let's say. Right? It can be used for good and for bad. So chutzpah in general, I would say is negative. Most times it's used in a negative way. Right? It could be used positively. Could be. A person can tap into, let's say, negative things, but it could come out in a positive way. Right? They say, but if it's in general negative, but we're not saying it's forbidden to tap into it if it's done in the right way. If a person uses chutzpah in a negative way, most of the time it's bad. I mean, I tell people, all the time, I use chutzpah to, develop a connection to my Rabbi, right? But it was done in a good way, not in a bad way, right? I basically told them, I'm not taking no for an answer, and you're going to have to be the one to teach me, and I was stubborn. I kept calling him, making up questions, this, that, I just kept bugging him and bugging him. I'm not saying, this is for a good thing though. Yeah, that's how I developed my connection. Right? So that's used in a good way. He didn't say this a bad way. Maybe just saw like this person is driving me nuts, like just leave me. He could have just told me just leave me alone or whatever. Could have. Maybe wanted to be nice. I don't know. Right? He had compassion for me and he let me in. Yeah. So it can be used in the right way. For sure, it can be used in the right way. You got to be careful though, because a lot of times, if you see how it's used, most of the time it's bad. When people are chutzpahdik, it's usually never good. Usually. I'm not saying it can't be used for good. It could be. Yeah, but you got to be careful. Being stiff-necked and being, strong-willed, it's not gaiva. It's not being conceited. Being confident doesn't mean you're conceited. Now, you got to be careful with that also. I've had people tell me, it's like, oh, you think you know, and, and like, you sound really conceited and cocky. It's not a question of being cocky. Yeah. If you overstep those boundaries, it is. Right? But if the person has knowledge and they have good proof to their knowledge and they show that to us, that's not being cocky. Yeah. It's showing you have knowledge. Now, again, if you think you're better than the other person based on that knowledge, it's a different issue. Right? Being overconfident does not mean a person is conceited. If they are, that's a problem. Right? But keep in mind, the person's been studying for years, let's say. They've been studying for years and years. Don't you think they have a certain level of knowledge? Now, if that person thinks they have all the knowledge and that they got the knowledge themselves and whatever, okay, they're taking God out of the picture, that's a problem. Right? But if someone coming out of nowhere, I've seen this a number of times, personal experience. Someone comes out of nowhere, they don't know anything. They're like, oh, you just got a chip on your shoulder. Not a question of chip on my shoulder. Right? You tell someone, bring me evidence. I have evidence. I want to see your evidence. Let's have a discussion. Show me evidence. Oh, you think you really know? And you're cocky and you're being conceited. Of course you're being conceited. I want to see if you have evidence. Because I know I have evidence, that means I'm cocky. Yeah, that means I'm conceited. I don't mean that. Now the question is, even if a person perceives that, but that's not the case, do I have to worry about that? I don't have to worry about that. I've had people say, oh, you think you really know? I do. Because I spent 20 years learning more. So I think I would know what I'm talking about. In a lot of things. Plenty of things I don't know. Or I don't know as well. Okay. I'll be free to admit it. But you're coming out of left field not knowing nothing. And you're going to sit there and put me down and say, oh, come on. Oh, you think you know, and you're cocky and this and that. Let's go verse for verse. Let's go passage after passage, Gemara after Gemara. Show me. Book after book. We'll sit. We'll go through. Show me. But if you stinking can't even learn Hebrew and you can't read it for the life of you, and you got the chutzpah in a negative way, oh, you think you're cocky, you think you know. You gonna argue someone's got a PhD like that, pilot higher and deeper, or Papa as dough? You would never argue that. Not in a million years. Because you're out of your league. You well out of your league. What? You're gonna read an article on Wikipedia on physics and say, oh, Stephen Hawking, I'll knock him out. What are you, an idiot? You're a moron. Coppin 615th commandment. Don't be a moron. You're an idiot. You're not coming close to him in physics. You know nothing. Oh, I'm going to knock him out because I read this article on Wikipedia. Seriously? I have to take that seriously? Oh, he's being cocky. He thinks he knows. Guy's prolific. All right, no longer in this world. He's also a heretic, okay? But he's prolific in physics. He's like the world authority in physics for the last generation. You're going to sit there and argue with him? Someone who's a Torah scholar. He's got real knowledge. You're going to sit there and argue? Really? If you got a good point, you got a good point. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem looking things up, say, oh, it's a good point. Let's see. Let's see if it's true or not. The problem is people come in with a chip on their shoulder. Say, oh, I'm arrogant. You can't read Hebrew for the life of you. I'm not saying a person can't ask a good question. They could. They could have good questions. Yeah, but they're there to put you down. They're there to knock you out, and to make fun. They, oh, you really think you know? You really got a chip on your shoulder. It's not a question of chip on your shoulder, right? I told somebody, they were married to a non-Jew, right? So I said, where does the Torah say, or anywhere, any source, we're allowed to intermarry? I said, I got at least 6, 7 sources says in the Torah stuff, you're not allowed to intermarry. I said, I'm open to a discussion. Let's hear. Bring me a medrash, bring me a Gemara, bring me something. You're a fanatic, right? That's what the person answered. You're a fanatic. Okay, I'm a fanatic. Very good. But you didn't bring me a source. That doesn't tell me anything. You're just sitting there making fun. Okay. I said, show me something. I don't have to show you anything. You don't deserve anything. Okay. Person can say, oh, you're too harsh on them. You hit them too hard, maybe. But I want an answer. It's not arrogance over here. I think I'm right. I 100% believe I'm right. Is that arrogance? I don't think it's arrogance. I got proof. I got real proof. You want to hear it? No. Oh, you think you really know? Because I do. I got ample evidence. You don't want to hear it? Okay. That's not being arrogant. Right? That's not being arrogant. Right? I'm not snubbing my nose at anyone and rubbing it in their face. I am calling them an ignoramus because that's what they are, right? So maybe, maybe that approach isn't so good, maybe, right? Well, I won't necessarily deny that, right? But, someone coming from no knowledge, and this is a hard thing, why do you have to respect somebody that's an idiot? You don't have to, again, you want to draw them closer, yeah. So say, wow, such an interesting point. Maybe you can think like this, maybe you can think like that. But they're attacking you. Now, you don't have a right to say anything back. So you got to be careful. The problem is, I'll tell you what the problem is, right? I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is, even if you're right, even if you win the argument in this case, let's say I won the argument, okay. Person's no closer to Judaism than they were before. You didn't draw them closer by winning the argument. Doesn't mean you shouldn't win the argument. But you're not drawing them closer because they're not intellectually honest. Right? As we always say, most people are not intellectually honest. So that's it. But I want certain people to see there are facts out there if they want to look at them. They don't want to look at them, okay. Right? But if they're there to make fun, I'm not saying you make fun of them back, right? Not tit for tat. You're not going to say, oh, you said this, I'll say this. Different things. That's never good. You're not going to convince them. Right? But the point is to show they don't have knowledge. As I said, where do you get this from? Had somebody that said, it's written right here in my heart. It's right here. That's what it tells me. I said, okay. I mean, they're like yelling and screaming at me, call me fanatic, call me this, call me that. So I said, okay, very good. I said, but you have any source for that? Do you have anything to back it up? I said, I'm more than happy to hear. Bring me a medrash, bring me a Gemara, bring me something. I don't have to bring you anything. It's right here in my heart. So you're arguing with the brick. Next topic. But that's it, right? Waste of time. That's what the conversation is. It's written on your heart. Does that mean anything? In general? No. You don't have evidence. You're not showing evidence. You're saying, I believe that's the right thing to do based on. You can say that about putting someone out to pasture. Yeah. Euthanasia. Now, they're suffering. It's in my heart. They're suffering. So put them out to pasture. That's murder. Beg to differ. That's not mercy. It's murder. People don't want to argue sources. They don't have sources. Right? But it's kind of annoying. Because, like, first of all, you sound holier than thou. Second of all, they don't necessarily want to listen to what you have to say. And even if you beat them, are they going to be intellectually honest and say, oh, that's a very good point. Looks like you got me beat, but I'm going to do what I want anyway. That doesn't even matter today. Then you can prove them wrong. They really care. I told somebody once, maybe it's not the right thing to say. I said, I said, I got a grandkid under the age of 7 who knows more than you. It's true. They didn't deny it. They said, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, there's no education. Okay, ramming it down their throat. Yeah, probably not a good thing. Probably not going to draw them closer, but they're annoying. They're annoying. I'm not saying to learn from my example. But for goodness sakes, I have to, you have to take someone seriously. I said if they ask a good question, but if they throw something out there just to make fun of you and put you down, I have to respect their answer. I have to respect the answer. They don't respect what you say, right? I'm not saying tit for tat. Oh, they don't respect you. You have to respect them, right? So people think that's not the way to draw people closer. You gotta have an unbelievable amount of warmth, and you're right. It's true. Very true. But at the end of the day, they're like flies. Just want to squat. You want to squash them because they deserve to be squashed. But not everyone will hold it according to that approach. Ramming down their throats not going to help, right? So you have to draw them closer through love, because not through ideologies, not through issues. They don't want to hear about issues. And a lot of people can be brought closer to Torah through food. Invite them for a Shabbos meal. Invite them for a festive meal. Show them the warmth of Torah. That's greater than any argument. It's true. But I'm saying if a person's being attacked, everyone's attacking them verbally. They don't have a leg to stand on. So you should be nice. Well, sounds like an interesting point. Did you ever think about this? Did you ever look at that? Right? There are ways to do it, but sometimes a person doesn't like to get put down. Right? You got to overcome that. You got to be bigger than that. Forget what they say. You know where they're coming from. Well, it's hard. Yeah. So chutzpah can be good or bad. The Raja Ruach HaKodesh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question. Imagine people learned how to learn Torah without Rashi before Rashi came on the scene, right? The time of the Talmud, you have the Gaonim was period before Rashi. And you have the later commentaries, the later rabbis, the early rabbis. But they understood what was going on even without Rashi explaining it to them. But to give divine inspiration, I don't think there's any question. It's that unbelievable knowledge. When you look at a Rashi, you got to understand he's got the entire Talmud, all the midrashim at his fingertips. He's got everything right there, right in front of him. So he's looking at like the bigger scheme of things, the smaller scheme of things, got everything right there. Everything right in the palm of his hand. So do I believe he had divine inspiration? Yeah. I think I think they're unbonded. I think all these great commentaries did. Different levels. Because there's certain, the knowledge that they have is, they're unbound, let's say in general. The Ramban, you look at his commentary, a lot of it's Kabbalah. It is very, very much steeped in Kabbalah. Sometimes easy to understand, sometimes not, but do you have a certain level of understanding beyond what a person should normally have? Yeah. Why? Because God gifted it to him. It's the only way. He didn't get it through himself. God helped him. But you see people, and we're talking great, great people that we'll never imagine who they are. They had uncanny knowledge. They just had knowledge that's not normal. According to our own understanding. It's just not normal. That's called divine inspiration. God's giving them more information. It's helping them. It's helping them more. Why? Could be a family number of reasons. Right? Well, but a lot of great rabbis have it. They have it. Seen by Rabbi also. I'll just give one example by him. That before October 7th, so on Chol Moed, in the intermediate days of the festival, he spoke 3 times. And each time he mentioned a similar theme. And that was during the war, Moshe Schneider spoke before Simchas Torah. His Rabbi spoke, and some of the students asked, how can we sing and dance? The family's being slaughtered. Right? The family's totally being slaughtered. So Moshe Schneider said, Hitler, may be brought out, may rot, wherever he is. He said, Hitler can take our bodies, can't take our souls. Right? He can take our bodies, he can't take our souls. So then they got up and they danced and they danced and they danced. But he said that 3 times. 3 times before what happened. So I was supposed to go here and speak at least once. It didn't happen. Right? Whatever. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. But I would have scratched my head like, why is he talking about that now? Of all things, he could speak about the holiday. The holiday of Sukkot. Why speak about that? But he spoke about the same thing 3 times. Because he felt there was something coming. I mean, he'd been foreboding this for a long time. Yeah. How did he know? You're going to say it's what he felt. Okay. So what he felt and what I felt are totally different things. Because he's holding a much higher level. Much higher level. So he felt something was about to happen. And that divine inspiration. Now, he didn't know exactly what or where, but he had a foreboding, foreboding thoughts about it. That's divine inspiration right there. Like people told me after the whole thing came out and what happened and, what he said. People said, well, I didn't know he had that kind of, level of knowledge. I said, well, you should ask me that 20 years ago. I would have told you that. Now, how did I know that 20 years ago? Because certain things he told me that wasn't really possible for anyone to know. He told me certain things like, where'd you get that from? Hey, he didn't say. He just sort of like looked at me. He didn't say, but there's something else going on. He's got uncanny knowledge for things he should never have. I don't care how brilliant you are. It's a divine gift. I don't think there's any question. I've heard it by other rabbis also. One of our rabbis once told me by a certain great rabbi, in a he was judging a case or whatever. And there were certain things he said and certain knowledge he had. He said, well, according to nature, wasn't possible. So it wasn't possible. He said, impossible for this person to know this information. So where do you get it from? So he told me a little birdie told him. Yeah, it's called divine inspiration. So some great rabbis' generation have it because they're on such a high level. Yeah, it's a low form of prophecy. But, there are people that can have it. There definitely are people that can have it. For the vast majority of people, no. Someone asked, what's the correct understanding of a parable? Depends what the parable is. That's not a general question. Right? Because it depends what the parable is. Right? It depends how it's looked at. Because a lot of things in the Torah can be used as metaphors. God having an outstretched hand or an outstretched arm. He doesn't have one. right? It's incorporeal, it doesn't have a body. So if it doesn't have a body, what does that mean? It's a metaphor. What's the metaphor for? Power, right? So parables can be interpreted different ways. Depends, it depends on the context. Depends what God wants out of it and what's the person to get. A lot of times, the person had what do you call it? That prophecy, but it could be in the form of parable. Could be, it could be in a vision. You got to figure out the vision, right? Now you're going to say, what's the meaning of that parable? Whatever God wants that person to understand. So for each person, it's going to be different, right? It could be the same thing that God wants to get out of the same, of different people. Okay, right? But the way it's going to be done could be different, right? That's what I would say. Somebody says they're more apt to listen to someone who's confident, right? Hard work builds confidence. You're right. Again, confidence though can be looked at as arrogance, and it doesn't mean it is. If the person acts pompous and conceited because they have all this knowledge or whatever, that's a different issue, right? That's a different issue, right? That means the confidence that they have based on their knowledge is making them pompous, making them conceited. That's bad. That's for sure. But people misinterpret, and again, that doesn't mean a person did anything wrong. They might have, but it doesn't mean that. Right? If a person has done something to show confidence, the other person calls it arrogance, that's their misinterpretation. Now, if it's arrogance, okay, then they're right. But if it's not arrogance and it's confidence, person can exude confidence. They can also be humble. It does not go hand in hand with arrogance. Does not. Now, if a person is, it's a problem. Arrogance, the Orthodox Tzaddikim, the way the righteous, he says, in the gate of arrogance, it's the base of all bad character traits. So even a little bit of arrogance is bad. Now, the Rambam would say all bad character traits, you try and go to one extreme and end up somewhere in the middle, right? You want to take the middle path. Arrogance is no middle path. Arrogance is no middle path. Someone says, if I was the Gadol of the generation, would you change in this Jewish world first? What would I change? What would I change? I don't know. Maybe trying to put more love into the Torah and not just being an academic exercise. Right? I get that you have to cover ground. I get the fact that you want to know how to learn, and it's a lot of hours, and kids have to be taught and this and that. Right? How to learn a piece of Gemara, and that's the most important thing. It's how much they know and how much they learn, whatever, but they have to love what they do. Right? So if I could change anything, that would be it. Put much more love in what we do. I spoke on Shabbos, my son's bar mitzvah. One of the things I said was I heard from Mitzvah Yaakov Fisher, Zeichet Tzadik Livrocha. May his name be blessed. He was one of the great rabbis of the last generation. And he once told me the word Vahafta. Vahafta is Hashem Elokecha. Gotta love the Lord your God, right? With all your heart, all your soul, all your might, right? Beginning of the Shema, first paragraph of the Shema. So he told me, what's the root of the word Vahafta? The word is Hav, right? Aleph Hey Beis or Hey Beis is the root of the word Vahafta, right? What is the root? What does the word Hav mean in Aramaic? The word Hav in Aramaic means to give. You got to give. Torah is something that is there are three things the Gemara says are hard to acquire: Torah, Olam Haba, the next world, and Eretz Yisrael. So he said you have to give. So giving, you got to put all your effort in. And it's hard, it's hard to, be in classes all day, right? And learning, and even learning different subjects, not just Gemara, whatever. But a head of a school, an elementary school, many, many years ago, told me, what makes their school different than other schools? And he said, we have a lot more toys. That's what he told me. He said we have a lot more toys. Our goal, however much the kids learn, our goal is to make it so fun, to make Torah so enjoyable, that even if, God forbid, later on, they're thinking about, going off and doing other things, and God forbid, not keeping Torah mitzvahs, they'll eventually come back because of the warmth and the love they had when they were young. Today, a lot of it's doom and gloom. You got to do this, otherwise you're going to find hell forever. You got to keep people in line and whatever. Girls' schools and yeshivas, they don't feel the love. It's just do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. What's the case in this case and that case, and how does it apply, and blah, blah. All right, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of things you got to get down. Right? What do you have to do? But you have to have love. You have to have love of Torah. You have to have love of God. We live in a very harsh world, very difficult world. We're doing things because we're doing it, not just because we're doing it by rote, because our parents brought us up this way or anything else. You want to do it because you're choosing to do it. Now, can someone tune out and choose not to do it? Yeah. There are plenty of people in the system do not get inspired. As we say, what seminary is for, right? For girls after they graduate high school, it should be inspired then. But what about in school? They don't get inspired. It's doom and gloom. Got dressed a certain way. Other things, though, I agree. These things have to be done. And halacha has to be adhered to. You have to keep it. Very good. Right? And you have to know what to do in different circumstances. Okay? There's a lot of academic things. Good. Where's the beauty? Where do you see the beauty? And a lot of times that's what's missing. I know someone, their daughter sort of went off. Somewhat traditional in certain things. They want to have, Shabbos in their home and other things, and they don't dress the right way, and I wouldn't say they're so religious in other ways. But what's the common denominator? What happened to this person? They didn't feel inspired. They feel that all this education was a waste. They didn't gain anything from it. Just doom and gloom. That's what they gained, but they didn't gain anything else. That's what you need. So you have today, in yeshivas, they're learning Hasidic works to be inspired. That they should be inspired, not just, going through the motions of learning this thing and that thing and the other thing. And, well, it has practicality in their life. Doesn't have practicality in their life. It's a grind. It's hard. Someone will say you got to change the system. We're not changing the system. Right? That get out of your head. That's not going to happen. System works for those that are, for a lot of people it works. But you got to live inspired also. And some people can flake out after a while. They just get burnt out. So that's a different question I'm not going to get into. Right? How do you live it and not get burnt out? That's a whole another topic. Right? So we've spoken about that in different Q&As, different things. Right? But that's a whole another thing. But the idea is, that we should sing and dance more. I'd work very hard to do that. Again, I wouldn't necessarily change the curriculum. But you got to get people out there that can inspire people. Not just tell them what they have to do and how to learn, and this is what Toisus means, and this is what the other commentary means, and why they disagree. And then, okay, you need that also. For sure you need that. And they need to know how to think and how to break down picayune details and all that. Good. But they get to see the beauty also. If they don't see the beauty, then eventually it's not going to stick. Then eventually they're going to, they'll go off eventually. Right? Why? Because I'm inspired. It's interesting, very good. This and that. I want to spend my life doing it. There are other things in the world. But again, what the opposite seems to happen also is that they think, the grass is green, or they go off and whatever, and the grass isn't so green in the other world, in the spiritual world. And sorry, in the physical world. Grass is not greener. Yeah, it causes a lot of other problems. A lot of other serious problems. There are people struggle. A lot of people struggle with belief in God, modesty issues, other things. These are serious issues. These are definite serious issues. But there's no house not affected. I'm not saying every single house is totally affected, right? If they have, one kid go off or whatever, but people at different levels, but what's the most important thing? I would say even my kid learns a lot less than other kids, but they love Torah, they love mitzvahs, they love Shabbos. So what if they learn less? Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's what they want to give over to their kids. But if it's only like doom and gloom and this and that, they're not inspired. So, there will be people, if they're not inspired, they'll still keep and they'll still do and they'll, whatever. Maybe they'll be more inspired, less inspired, but that's a serious problem. It's a problem. When people say change the schedule, change this, shouldn't kids be allowed to exercise and do other things? Yes. I know somebody will tell me his kid needs to be out and, running around and doing things and whatever to kill them. Right? And the schools are not made for that here. Outside of Israel, yeah, maybe certain schools here, maybe, but you can say whatever. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but it's an issue. Organized sports, different things, but you got to, kids got to get out. You can't just chain them into a classroom all day long. Again, doesn't mean they don't have breaks, and different things, but if also you got to let them ask whatever they want. And if you can't answer, get someone to answer the questions. Because there'll be people that are asked questions that get blown off and they say, oh, see, there are no answers. But they're not asking to be a heretic. They're asking because they have a serious question. About anything. The most important thing I would say is that, they have to want to live inspired. They want to get up every day and love what they do. Now, the only problem with that is you get bogged down in life. Things happen. Yeah, a lot of difficulty in life, true. But, if someone asks me, what would be the one thing I'd try and fix? And that is getting people to live more inspired. Maybe more of my Hasidic side here coming out, right? Sing and dance a little bit more, right? To love Torah more because they love Torah, not because they're going to get reward or anything else, because this is what they love to do. Right? It's not always so easy to do. If good days, you have bad days. If you live what the Chovos HaLevavos says in Duties of the Heart, if you really live it, you don't worry about anything. God takes care of everything. But you got to live inspired. You got to really live the ideal. Yeah. You got to see the good. It's not just, oh, this is forbidden, that's forbidden. You fry for this, you fry for that. That doesn't inspire people. Some people it does. Some people like very heavy, strong mussar. Okay. I'm not saying it always has to be touchy-feely. You have to know the repercussions for your actions, different things. Very good. You got to work hard. Sometimes you're less inspired, but you got to get inspired anyway. You got to get fired up. You got to psych yourself up. Sometimes it's hard. Depending on the circumstance. But you need to love Torah. Even if we never get any reward, you love it because this is the best thing out there. There's nothing else comes close to this. That's what it has to be. And if it's anything short of that, the person can get in a very bad rut. Because the pressure of society and just the outside world in general can destroy people easily. It's a lot more fun. I can just sit back, be a couch potato, watch things, whatever. It's a lot more entertaining. True. Learning is hard. Learning makes the brain tired. That's what it does. Makes the body tired. You got to use every ounce of effort, but you got to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, you can't pass that down. If your kids see it as just a yoke, a heavy yoke, they're not going to be interested so much. Maybe they'll be inspired on their own, but if it's doom and gloom, that doesn't inspire people too much. Some people. You gotta love what you do. When a person's younger and a bunch of rules and certain things that are taboo that you can't do. It's like if you would say, You can do all this, but but this you can't do, and that you can't do, whatever. So if you say what you can't do, say, oh, why not? Let me try it out. Let's see what it is. Then you open up Pandora's box. Then like someone will say, yeah, I wanted to find out what this and that was like, and yeah, it came back to bite them. Didn't help them. All the mussar and all the and everything against why these things are bad, it didn't register. They had to see it for themselves, and then say, well, I had to experience it for myself. Great. That make you a better person? Didn't make you a better person. Curiosity killed the cat, but it can destroy. There are people out there, I'm not going to get into this topic because I'm about to end, right? People out there who become gay or lesbians because they want to try it out. Not because they had a persuasion to it. Some people got into it because they, say, hey, let me see. Let me see what it's like. Cigarettes like that, other things. And what happens? Then you see, then they get into it, different things, and then they brainwash, and that's it. It's very hard to bring them back. Because if you'd ask most of these people, or transgender or gay or whatever, they wish they were normal like everyone else. Most of them would say that, but they're not. They're in the wrong body, this, whatever. Some serious psychological issues, a lot of them, not all of them. I'm not going to say every single person, a lot of them. And they wish they weren't that way, but that's who they are. Yeah, that's who they are. It's distressing, but it's so easy. It's so easy to go off the right path in this world. If anyone, either becomes religious or was religious and stays religious, it's a pretty big thing throughout their lives. There's a phenomenon, again, I'm not going to go into this either. There's a phenomenon, people, let's say midlife, they've been religious for, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever. They have this midlife crisis. Yeah, in spiritual terms. How does that happen? It's a phenomenon. Someone just decides they don't want to be religious anymore. What do you mean? What happened? It's not just an overnight decision. It's, obviously things have been happening for a long time. They decided they don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, they want to go through it, and they want to live life, so to speak. Yeah, but how does that happen? What happened those 20, 30 years? They were doing this. It must be that something happened. I'm not saying something traumatic, but something over time. They just got burnt out, seemingly. Yeah. And they don't want to do it anymore. Not just a little bit, this and that. They want a free break. But I will tell you, people like that, they don't fit in the secular world either. Right? They don't seem to fit in anywhere. And then they have the stigma coming back to the religious world. Okay, there are issues. There are definite issues with this. But people think, yeah, check this out, check that out. I want, and they see the secular world's not all what it's caked up to be. Yeah. And then what happens? They get burned. They make decisions and they make serious decisions. Doesn't mean they can't come back, but they're, they have the stigma now because they left. Okay. Will the Orthodox community welcome them back with open arms? Yes. 100%. Yeah, but there's a stigma. 100% there's a stigma. But if you'd ask most people, did you get what you wanted? You want to say it wasn't in religion and it wasn't in Torah. You didn't get that for whatever reason. Did you get it in the secular world? Yeah. Now, some people say, yes, I got fulfillment. I got to do this. I got to do that. Other things, but deep down, right? Deep down, there's an empty shell there. Totally empty shell. They didn't get what they wanted. You say, how do you know? Because you can see. They're not totally fulfilled either. So whatever, we're a hybrid of body and soul. We got to take the soul, run after Torah mitzvahs, mitzvah gores, mitzvah vera gores. The vera, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, you do more mitzvahs, you want to do more mitzvahs. You sin, you want to do more sins. So there's always a constant battle between body and soul. You do what you're supposed to do, go according to the spiritual, very good. You uplift the body, uplift the soul. You go only according to the physical, you debase the body, debase the soul. You gotta have a balance. You gotta have a balance. Balance not so easy to find, but you have to have a balance. If you don't have a balance, you go, a person goes to extremes. Extremes are never good in general. in general. If it's helping you live inspired, good. Keep you on the straight and narrow path. But living inspired, you have ups and downs all the time. This is from one of the great Hasidic rabbis. Does that, a person, you got to live inspired. Does that mean you pray the way you should every single prayers? Morning, afternoon, and night? You're inspired 24/7? No. Sometimes better, sometimes it's not. But okay, that's what we go through. That's normal. That is what's normal. But you want to have more better days than bad days. More spiritual days than mediocre days. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free. Find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Ethics for Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which I'm in a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, and